Hi, my name is Rayzor, and the topic for today's lesson is the trash dilemma. To get us started today, we're going to start with a video about why we should care about the trash dilemma.
Every day, an average American throws away 4.4 pounds of trash. Each year, nations generate 1.3 billion tons of waste. Yet, more than half the world's population does not have access to regular trash collection. The United States, China, Brazil, Japan, and Germany are the leading trash generators, and the United Nations Environment Program predicts the amount of waste will probably double in lower-income African and Asian cities as a result of population growth, urbanization, and rising consumption. The global trash problem creates numerous threats to the environment, health, and safety. Improper garbage disposal contributes to devastating epidemics of mosquito-borne malaria, yellow fever, and other potentially fatal diseases. In less developed nations, people scavenge through landfills for food and recyclable materials, exposing themselves to hazards such as lead, mercury, and infectious agents. Leachate, a black liquid that consists of organic and inorganic materials, including heavy metals and pathogens, is the most serious form of water pollution from landfills. Two potent greenhouse gases known as methane and carbon dioxide are the major gases that make up 90 to 98% of landfill gas, contributing to global warming and climate change. As most American cities and towns have trash collection services, most people pay little attention to the amount of waste they are discarding. By changing the way we view and handle our garbage every day, we can reduce the amount of waste that enters landfills. Reducing, reusing, and recycling are a few of the ways in which we can begin to help tackle the growing environmental problems we're facing today.
So if we were in person, we would have a discussion about why it's important to care about the trash dilemma. We can see from this video that it is important for the health and safety of humanity and the rest of the environment to decrease the amount of trash that we are producing. So our lesson objective. The learner will be able to talk about how we can reduce the amount of trash we send to landfills and create a flyer to inform others about waste management. So let's continue by talking a little bit about what we already know. Since we're in an online format, I want you guys to go ahead and click the Padlet link on your screen to write down the answers to these two questions. Remember that your classmates can see your responses, so you want to be aware of what you're writing. The first question, how do you take care of trash at your home? Sometimes it becomes a thoughtless practice for us when we take out our trash. So this question really gets you focusing on how you take out your trash and what practices that you are following. The second question, what do you already know about recycling? I'll go ahead and click the Padlet link to show you how it works. When you click the Padlet link, it'll take you to a screen that looks like this. In the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see a pink plus button. Click that button, and you'll see a screen that looks like this. It will all be on one screen. So you can write your response here. So subject, we'll just say recycling. And then you can write something more specific. You can include a file upload, a picture, a link. Any of these are options for you to go ahead and talk about how you take out your trash or what you already know about recycling. Back to our presentation now. If you need to, you can pause the video so you can finish writing down your thoughts on the Padlet link. Now that we've talked a little bit about what we already know about recycling and how we take out our trash, let's watch this video to learn how and why it is important to recycle correctly.
There is nothing like a hot cup of tea in the morning. That is until I'm done and I have to decide what to do with my cup. Can I recycle it?
Is it a trick question?
Yeah, this is a great question.
And I just figure you can recycle anything that's cardboard-esque.
That's not right.
I can't recycle this?
Knowing what you can and can't recycle isn't easy. The rules depend on where you live, and there are hundreds of products and materials where the rules aren't always clear.
Pizza boxes.
I hear that that's not recyclable. I don't know if that's like a legend, an urban legend or something.
Paper towels.
My roommate and I actually have this discussion where I'm like, I'll throw paper towels in there, and she's like, I don't think you can recycle that, and she'll pick them out. I'm like, I don't know, it's paper.
Bubble wrap mailers.
I don't know, this is so hard.
The confusion means that things that are actually garbage still end up in the recycling stream. About 25% of what Americans try to recycle can't actually be recycled. Waste management experts say what's going on here is something called aspirational recycling. When people are unsure if an item can be recycled, they recycle it because it feels like the right thing to do. And while our intentions are good, this behavior isn't harmless. Even small amounts of contamination can turn entire hauls of otherwise recyclable materials into trash. And the problem has been growing. The rate of recycling contamination more than doubled in the last decade. So why is this happening? Well, it's at least in part due to a major shift in how Americans recycled. Beginning in the 1990s and 2000s, municipalities implemented single-stream recycling programs. Paper, metal, plastic, and glass no longer needed to be sorted. They could all live in one bin. Communities quickly adopted the practice, and by 2014, 80% of all curbside recycling programs in the US were single-stream. The problem is, there's evidence that when we put all our recycling into one bin, we're more likely to throw trash in there along with it. Take two neighboring counties in Florida, for example. Palm Beach County, where residents must pre-sort their recyclables, had a contamination rate of only 9%, while Broward County's single-stream program had a contamination rate of 30%. Single-stream recycling takes the responsibility to sort off of the individual and shifts it to materials recovery facilities, or MRFs, where trash gets sorted from recycling by machines, but also by workers, who often have to remove waste by hand. Pizza boxes contaminated with grease, electronics that aren't processed at standard recycling facilities, even the likes of Christmas lights, animal carcasses, and bowling balls. In Portland, workers remove thousands of dirty diapers every month. In a perfect world, everyone would just know how to recycle correctly. But short of that, there's something we can all start doing differently right now. Unless you are absolutely sure, don't recycle it. In fact, recycling education campaigns encourage the opposite. When in doubt, the best option may be to throw it out. Most people want to do the right thing, and sometimes the way to be a good recycler is to throw stuff in the trash.
If you like this video and want more like it, we've launched a paid membership program on YouTube.
So again, if we were in person, I would take this time to facilitate discussion, but since we're in an online format, you can share your thoughts in the discussion board where this video is posted, and then I'll just share a few of my thoughts as well. I definitely found myself being the person who wanted to go ahead and try to recycle materials, even if I wasn't sure. I had no idea that I could be doing more harm than good, because it's going to take the recycling plant more time to sort through those materials, and then most likely they're just going to throw them away, because what I threw away is actually going to contaminate the rest of the bin. So I was surprised to find out that it does more good to just pitch it if you're not sure. Now that we've learned a little bit about how to recycle correctly, it's important to realize that each county has their own rules and regulations on how to recycle. Now it is your turn to investigate and spend some time looking through the Hillsborough County Recyclable Items website. And while you're on there, I want you to look specifically for 3 different questions. Can I put all paper and plastics into the recycling bin? Where can I take recyclable items if there is not a pickup service where I live? What should I do with grocery bags? Like I said, focus on these 3 questions as you're exploring the page, but also pursue anything that you might find interesting as well. I'll go ahead and click the link and show you guys a little bit about what it looks like, just so you can get an idea. So it's going to bring you to this page. What can I recycle? The blue cart are all items that can be recycled. Gives you examples. Not recyclable items in your blue cart. So these are things that can be recycled elsewhere, but you can't put it in your recycling bin. And then the gray cart, which is just your typical trash bin. So spend some time looking at that website and then return back to the presentation when you're finished. Now that you've had some time to look around on the Hillsborough County Recycling website, it's time to see and show what you've learned a little bit. To do so, you're going to play an interactive true and false game by clicking on the link in the screen or the link in the discussion board that accompanies this video. I'll go ahead and click to show you how it goes. It's going to take you to the first screen, and then you'll move on to the first question. Number 1, trash bags and grocery bags can be recycled by placing them in a blue bin, also known as your recycling bin. You're going to pick your answer choice, and then it'll tell you whether your answer was right or incorrect. That way you can have immediate feedback on your learning. There are 5 questions, so once you've worked through those, go ahead and return back to the presentation. Now that you've practiced and gotten feedback on a little bit of your knowledge so far, it's your turn to demonstrate your learning through a poster assignment. What you're going to do is create a flyer or a poster on Jamboard about recycling in Hillsborough County specifically. You can click on the link on the screen or click on the link in the discussion board that accompanies this video. You'll notice that there are 4 groups that each of you are placed into. Each of you are responsible for creating your own poster on Jamboard, but you're allowed to collaborate or bounce ideas off of the other people in your group. Whenever you click on the Jamboard link, I'll do that to show you. You're going to come to a screen that looks like this. These are your directions for the poster. Each of you should create your own poster. Please create a new slide by clicking through Jamboard to the next blank slide, then place your name at the top left-hand corner. You'll notice this space right here is where you click through the Jamboard. Click the arrow, and this is the first blank slide. If you notice over here, there are a few different ways you can edit on Jamboard. You have a pen, eraser, a mouse, a sticky note, which is typing like I had on the first slide. You can add pictures, shapes, text box, and then even this little marker tool. Once you've done that, return back to the presentation. Now that you've shown me what all you've learned about recycling on your poster, I want you to think about it a little bit more. That way you can transfer your learning even further. How do you plan to reduce your trash production? What steps or changes can you make in your lifestyle to help decrease the amount of trash that leaves your house? Second, who can you share your poster with? Now that we've talked a little bit about recycling, I'm going to move to talking about Gagne's theory of instruction. The first of the basic characteristics or components of this theory is that there is a taxonomy of learning outcomes. That can be broken into 3 different categories according to domain. First is the cognitive domain. This includes the cognitive strategies, intellectual skills, and verbal information to be employed when learning about a particular concept. Next, you have the affective domain. This refers to the attitude of the learner during the learning experience. Third, you have the psychomotor domain. This encompasses all of the motor skills needed to participate in a learning activity. The next major component of this theory is the condition of learning. The condition of learning refers to the internal and external situations or settings that are present during instruction. Some of the internal conditions could be the motivation of the learner, their willingness to participate, or the prior knowledge that they bring to the table. Some more of the external situations or settings could be the physical environment that a learner is engaged in. It is the materials around them, the classroom around them, the room around them. And then even more so, it's unique to each discipline, whether that's within a school or a professional development session. The condition of the learning, in terms of the external factors, are the physical things around you that the learner engages in. The third major component is Gagne's 9 steps. He lists out these 9 steps that are intended to be followed relatively in order, so that the learner can be guided from start to finish in a systematic and structured way. The first step is gaining the attention of students. The next, informing the learner of the objective. Then stimulating recall of prior learning. Then presenting the content, followed by providing learning guidance, then eliciting performance, providing feedback, assessing the performance, and then enhancing retention and transfer. So this theory makes several assumptions about learners. Today I'm going to discuss 3. The first relates to prior knowledge. It assumes that all learners are going to have some sort of prior knowledge, and it also assumes that all learners can access it on demand. This might not necessarily be true for students, especially in special education, who have difficulty accessing or referring back to the prior knowledge that they might have had, but they might not be able to recall at this particular moment. Another assumption is that students will be able to transfer their knowledge from in the past and the knowledge that they have now into the future. It refers back to the different hierarchy of the learning outcomes. It assumes that the learners will be able to engage in the highest complexity of learning outcomes and pull back from the lower components. It assumes that they'll be able to make that connection, where some students might not necessarily be able to do that. And thirdly, it assumes that the learner is going to be motivated to participate. It assumes that they're going to be willing to engage and be motivated to just really put in their best effort when participating and going through those 9 steps that Gagne presents. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the instructional principles that the theory implies. The first is that the instructor needs to make the lesson personal to the student. It has to be relative to them. They have to see the purpose in learning it. Even next, they need to follow the 9 steps that Gagne presents, going through that checklist and making sure they're doing all of those things. The instructor must also consider the context and the environment in which they plan to teach the information or the skill. It needs to make sense, and then they also need to follow the hierarchy. You can't teach a student how to divide if they don't know how to first multiply, and even before that, add and subtract. So you have to make sure that the lessons that are taught go in order and follow the hierarchy of those learning outcomes. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the other views on this theory. Some people love that this theory is systematic, that you have those 9 steps that you can work through, because it makes it very easy to employ in different situations and settings and disciplines. It's widely applicable in that you can use it in the classroom, or you can use it in professional development. You can use it from very young children to very old individuals in different disciplines and that sort of thing. A few cons of it. Some people think that there's too many unnecessary steps. A few people believe that the practice and the feedback are the only part that are absolutely essential for learning to occur. And some people also believe that it's too individualistic. They think it might be difficult to follow all of those steps when you have learners who are not on the same starting point. And then comparing some theories to Gagne's theory of instruction. We're going to look specifically at the role of the learner, role of the instructor, the preconditions to learning, and the process of learning for each of these categories. Gagne's theory of instruction sees the learner as a processor of information and the instructor as one who arranges the conditions of learning and instruction. The preconditions to learning are that it is internal and external conditions of learning. And then the process of learning is that they follow the cognitive information processing theory. For motivation and self-regulation, the role of the learner is to sync their learning efforts with their results. The role of the instructor is to enhance motivation and provide opportunities for learners to set goals for themselves. The preconditions to learning are the presence and participation in a learning environment, and the process of learning is a social cognitive view of learning. Finally, behaviorism. The role of the learner is to be active in the environment, and then they're going to experience the consequences they have to those actions. The role of the instructor is to identify the learning goals and implement behavior change programs. The preconditions to learning are the environmental conditions, and then the process of learning is behavioral environmental events. So why Gagne's theory of instruction? Why does it work? This theory is a very efficient theory of learning because it is systematic. It follows a sequence of events that make learning most transferable. It's flexible in that it can be employed in a variety of disciplines and in a variety of age groups. It can also be individualized for specific learners, but it can also be tailored to do small group or whole group instruction as well. And it's fairly simple. It can be easily employed and followed easily. So the best method of assessment for my activity was the recycling poster. And I believe that it was the best method for a variety of reasons. I believe that it allows the learner to demonstrate what they retained from the activity. If I were to use a quiz, it would force learners to pull out random facts about the activity or the website that they learned. And this method of assessment, it provides an opportunity for creative expression. It's not going to restrict students to a particular method of displaying their knowledge. It really gives them the opportunity to share what they walk away with most from the lesson. And what I liked most about it was that they can share what they learned with others very easily. It's very easy for them to send a copy of the poster that they made or print them out and display them anywhere so that their learning truly is transferred to others beyond themselves. And then these 5 videos are great videos for an overview of the basic components of Gagne's theory of instruction. And this was my reference that I used for the presentation.